Welcome to Straight Up Reviews. There's no bullshit beyond the sign. I figure I should do one more holiday related review, but I couldn't really think of another Christmas related medium until now. I decided to review a few of my favorites in the Rankin Christmas special. Now, over the years of watching Channel Awesome, I noticed that Rankin takes a lot of shit from reviewers like Nostalgia Critic. While I do find said reviews hilarious, and I love a good parody of said material, I feel they haven't been done justice from a more positive to neutral standpoint. I say positive to neutral because as a kid I loved the hell out of them, but as an adult I feel I should look into what makes them so good and bad. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Rankin is an animation company that was founded in the 1960s. Among most things, they were famous for popularizing a well-known craft known as stop-motion animation, a technique involving still pictures thrown together at the right timing and movements to create an animation. Shows like Robot Chicken and Tim Burton's animated movies wouldn't be around without this technique. My personal favorites of Rankin include Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, The Little Drummer Boy, and Frosty the Snowman. Now, as you notice right off the bat, the names of those movies, along with others, are named after famous Christmas carols, which is not uncommon as there have been movies and TV shows before and after, such as Bing Crosby's White Christmas, that were named after Christmas carols. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to review each special that I have seen in my lifetime and analyze the ups and downs of the story, animation, and overall impact that it leaves now. The first one is ironically the first one I saw, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The story goes like so. Donner, one of the original 8 reindeer, has a son named Rudolph. He was born with a condition that causes his nose to glow bright red. This causes him to not only be an outcast by the other reindeer, but by Santa himself. Wait a minute. What the hell, Santa? I thought you were nice to everyone. Anywho, if you know the song, you know that the other reindeer, which I think was named Olive, I don't know, catch wind of his secret, and Comet refused to let Rudolph participate in the reindeer games. What the hell? You too, Comet? And after all the times he's helped Tim Allen out. Going off topic here. Rudolph runs away and meets Hermia, an elf who would rather be a dentist than make toys. They become fast friends and meet Yukon Cornelius, a prospector obsessed with silver and gold, all the while setting off to find the island of misfit toys in hopes they'd be accepted there. However, not all is fun and games as they run afoul of Bumble, a yeti who craves reindeer meat. Now, aside from many what the hell moments, I'm still mad that Santa was a part of the anti-Rudolph side of things, by the way. This was a rather great story which contains elements that are not like anything geared towards children, such as battling between fitting in with a group while at the same time wanting said group to accept you for who you are, as well as judging a book by its cover, for example Rudolph's nose and Bumble's teeth, and lastly proving to the world that everybody has a place in it without changing themselves. And despite its overall seriousness and whimsical tone, there are a few funny moments, such as the running gag about Santa's weight, because it sums up every Santa that's appeared before and after this movie. The animation itself is dated compared to the new improvements to stop motion, however, at its time it was as groundbreaking as, say, Tron was the CGI. The overall impact, however, is not so easy to notice unless you watch it frame by frame. Regardless, you can still catch on many TV shows in the US and Canada at least. The next one is Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This special does an origin story that's supposed to cover all the bases regarding our favorite jolly old fat guy in the red suit, from his suit, to his laugh, to why he only appears during once a year. I wonder if Nolan would do a darker, grittier version of the story. Okay, who here had a mental picture of Christian Bale in a Santa suit hanging a naughty kid upside down saying, "Where's the presents? Where are they?" Anywho, the story goes like so. In a town called Sombertown, a child was dropped off to the home of Burgermeister Meisterburger, the main lawmaker of said town. There was no ID on said child save for a name tag that said Claude, and a message warning not to let the child go into the Whispering Winds. Rather taking care of the child himself, Burgermeister has his henchman take the kid to the orphanage. However, the wind blows a child into the woods, and the local animals take him to the Kringle family, an elven community that raises him as their own. Growing up, the child known as Kris Kringle learns about the toy-making business and makes his way to Sombertown to deliver them to kids. However, what he doesn't know is after an incident, the Burgermeister has toys declared illegal. This makes Kris into an outlaw as he defies the Burgermeister every step of the way. Along the way, he meets and reforms a Winter Warlock, a warlock that teaches Kris certain magics that help him on his journey, and Miss Jessica, a school teacher who falls in love with Kris. It has now become a battle of wits between the Burgermeister and the Kringles as each sets out to do the other before eventually Kris becomes the Santa Claus we know and love, and soon hate after treatment of Rudolph. Though now that I'm on the subject, maybe that nose is a birth defect due to the magic horn that Donner ate that made him fly. The story itself is pretty good, but you'd have to suspend your disbelief even in a magic-based special like this. The animation had improved save for one scene. This particular scene creeped me out mostly. There was one part where the Burgermeister was burning all the toys in front of the children, which is tragic. But when they show the parts where the children do cry, their faces are wide-eyed and smiling. No tears at all, but the sound is there. What the hell, Rankin Bass? Was it too expensive to make a few frowning dolls? Another thing I wanted to question was the Miss Jessica song. While it clearly states that she's falling in love with, what was with that 60s, 70s trip out there? That aside, the overall impact is pretty decent and easy to notice. Bonus points for being one of the few stories that tell how Santa does what he does rather than the millions of why and is he real stories. The third is The Little Drummer Boy, which unlike the first two, which are constantly on, I've never seen this one for a long time. This was named after a specific carol around the little boy who goes to visit the birth of Christ. With no gifts to give, the drummer decides to play his drum to entertain the family. Rankin Bass expanded the story. Unlike most nativity stories which focus on either Jesus, Mary, or Joseph's viewpoints, this one focuses on the titular drummer and his life prior to meeting the King of Kings. And boy, was it unintentionally cruel. For starters, a kid, rather than simply going to the nativity, he is put on a traveling circus since his drumming can control animals and make them dance. He and his animal friends escape, but wow, he then meets the famous three wise men who are on their way to said nativity. However, what makes it more cruel is just as they were getting there, one of the boy's friends, a sheep, gets hit by a roaming chariot. So now he's got to get to the manger to have the sheep healed. Jesus was barely born for a few seconds and he's already needed. And guess what? Rather than give Jesus the gift of song like in the carol, the drummer's like, oh no. You get nothing until you heal my sheep. Granted, it's not said out loud, and it probably wasn't Rankin Bass's intention, but wow. This special, which I loved watching as a kid, by the way, was one of the cruelest Aesops in the world. At least in the song, it was implied the drummer did it because he felt bad for not giving a gift. But this movie pretty much states, don't be selfless until you do something in return. It doesn't matter who you do it for. I'm not even going to get to the animation or impact on this one because this was made before Santa Claus is coming to town, so it's obvious it hasn't improved much, and the impact is damn, that's all I can say about it. Just damn. Last but not least is Frosty the Snowman. Now, unlike the first three, there was one big subtle difference. Instead of stop motion, they used hand-drawn 2D animation. That aside, I love this story the most because, save for a few moments, it's one of the more positive ones. It all starts at a school where a magician fails to impress kids. His rabbit escapes with his magic hat out the window, and the kids use it as a topper for their snowman. They put the hat on the snowman, and he comes to life shouting happy birthday for some reason. Was he dropped when he was a wee snowman, or is it what they keep putting in his pipe? Anyway, the fun doesn't last too long as the temperature begins to heat up. Fearing that he's going to melt, the kids try to smuggle Frosty into the North Pole. All the while, the magician's going through cruel lengths to get the hat. Of course, Santa arrives to save the day. Funny, Santa helps a red-nosed snowman, but not a red-nosed reindeer. The story itself is very positive, save for a few sad moments. The animation is what you would expect from an old-fashioned hand-drawn animation, not by Disney or Warner Brothers. Not quite good, but not bad either. The impact itself is also pretty great, especially the Aesop that if you help someone out when they're in trouble, it works out in the end. Now, I know there are many Rankin Bass, but I was merely looking at the ones I've seen. If there are any Rankin Bass you suggest I watch, Christmas or otherwise, let me know in the comments below. But my overall view of the series is that, so far aside from Frosty and aside from the great stories, the people in them are just terrible. And the fact that they keep a smile on their face throughout the whole ordeal just shows how heartless they are, especially around the holidays. As usual, debate, argue, and let me know what I missed. Stay tuned for more and have a Merry Christmas.